Namaste, Jai Bharat. We'll discuss some fundamental concepts. Any civilized society must have these two concepts very clear. Ideally, that is, one, the concept of right, and obviously, the concept of duties. If these two concepts are not very balanced, that would create disturbances in social coexistence. Let's see. If you, for instance, if you take uh, an ideal Marxist society, of course, not really ideal Marxist society, a functional Marxist society. Ideal society should be something else because there's such a gap between ideal Marxist existence and actual Marxist existence that obviously becomes so-called Marxist existence. Now, if you take the instances of some so-called Marxist societies, you find that there is the concept of rights, especially in a pre-revolutionary situation, given Marxian dialectical movement of society forward, a pre-revolutionary situations, discussions will be by and large around the concept of rights, and rights. See, the so-called political movers of Marxian political movement, which of course is roughly and practically we call it as communism, would would get their catch of common people by virtue of providing them these lessons on rights. That you have so many rights. You must have these rights. Now you see the situation as of now in international arena. You take the case of human rights. When I was talking about rights, and suddenly it came to my mind of human rights. Now the most violators of ideal human rights are appearing in front of us as champions of human rights. This is what we see. I don't want to take names of people, you know them. The real violators of human rights, they would bigot themselves as the custodians and champions and autochthones of human rights. I don't know what to call this, irony, or if there is a stronger word. Yeah, right. Anachronism should be the right word. So, see, the communist political movement, they get their catch in their net by talking to people that you have these rights. But then they hardly mention that you must be having these duties. So as a result, you find people very conscious of their rights and not at all bothered of what they ought to perform, what should be their duties to society, state, whatever. Now, let's not go into that area. Maybe some other time we can discuss that. Let's talk about the ideal situation of understanding rights and duties together. Normally, in any academic situation, they are expected to teach rights and duties together, and they do teach rights and duties together. And when you speak in European terms, this comes under the big umbrella of moral philosophy, and I have some my reservations about applying the concept of moral philosophy to Bharatiya knowledge tradition, because we have dharma, which engulfs many more things than what is intended through a discussion of moral philosophy. The European moral philosophies are very speculative. But the concept of dharma is entirely deep and different, and really may have nothing seriously to do with the moralizing sermons on moral philosophy, whether it is prescriptivism or emotivism, no, whatever. There's so many isms there. So let's talk about rights. Yes, we do have rights. We do have rights in a civil society. I'm talking about my nation, Bharat. We are a democratic society, and democracy, nobody has taught us democracy. We were democratic right from long time. We had this Ganarajyas. Even when our kings were ruling larger parts, uh, the king was not really a monarch or a dictator in that sense of the term, which people normally understand by the concept of dictator. The Bharatiya kings were never dictators of that kind. Monarch, of course, maybe you can say, but then they were not ruling as per the whims and fancies. Yes. The whimsical and fancy ruling of the people happens in Bharat only with the Mughals coming in. They become very whimsical, things like that. I need not to say. But the real archetype Bharatiya kings, they had a mantri mandala, or they had a group of ministers with them. They had scholars to assist and support them, and there always was a religiously inclined Maharshi-like person with him, who is supposed to be advising the king. He is called as oftentimes he is called as Raj Purohit. Now the king used to seek his advice on every possible matter, whether personal or not even. Of course, for the statecraft, there is always the group of ministers advising. And there is an interesting anecdote I came across some time back. See, the kings may not know one another. There are many kingdoms in Bharat. Bharat is such a vast land, especially the Akhanda Bharat, which included Afghanistan and many other nations which are independently existing today. So, the Akhanda Bharat, the kings might not know one another, but suppose the ministers, vast majority of the ministers, they knew one another because mostly they were educated in one university at that particular time. Though there were nearly 7 lakhs of universities, at this particular time, most of them were educated in one university, or they knew other scholars who studied in other universities. Many of them were students of Takshashila. And so this is an interesting phenomenon. Suppose a king has something to do with, he has some kind of discussion with a king of a different nation and whom the king doesn't know. He would immediately ask his minister, hey, do you know anyone there? Then that fellow will say, no, yes, I know. The so-and-so minister is my batchmate, classmate. See, this becomes an interesting situation even in statecraft. They have people, they were classmates, they were friends, many of them were studied together. So I said this only to say that the people were educated, scholars. So the rights always gets associated with duties. You have rights in your society, but you must also have duties to your society. See, many things that you use, or many things that you handle in your life is not really yours. It's not really yours. You either borrow it or maybe you learn it and practice it. Let's look at the language that we speak. I speak a language to you, and I have not created that language. I simply learned it. Now I have a given food habit. I have not invented that. I have learned it, maybe from immediate surroundings, maybe from my parents, things like that. Then the dress, what we wear, and the attitude what I am supposed to have towards my surroundings. My surroundings doesn't simply include other human beings. My surroundings in Bharatiya context automatically includes our living and non-living beings together. So that's a different branch. So I have indebtedness to something or someone other than what I am for what I do, think, practice, and how I live. So this indebtedness to something or someone that which is other than what I am, I should be conscious about. So you are already obliged to your surroundings and your society for all kinds of things. See, the food what I eat is not created by me. It's primarily by the farmer. I must have a sense of indebtedness to the farmers of my nation. Sometime back I came across a young professor, very young professor, who proudly, I was just casually asking him, "What's your father?" No, out of friendship. Then he is proudly answering, "My father is a farmer." And that pride in his eyes, now I really appreciated him. And of course, a very, very young scholar and a very good human being. He has his indebtedness to his soil, his land. Of course, naturally, he will respect his motherland because he respects his land and he respects what his father does. And we respect such people who give us food. They are food givers. Now let's not forget it. Don't say that I paid money so I get it. From where you get your money? So the duty is to society, the surroundings, to family, to parents must be very, very seriously understood, and someone should tell us how to perform or how to go about executing your duties to many things, not only your parents. See, in this present time of nuclear families, much less in Bharat, but in some other societies which is outside our nation, the parents are at old age left alone. Nobody to take care. The state, of course, has facilities to look after such old people in their old age, etc. But in an archetype Bharatiya family concept, they don't have to worry. They'll be taken care of by their children, grandchildren, whoever is at the family. That's the very concept of family. And kutumba in Sanskrit, a family becomes a fundamental unit of our Sanskriti. So duties to various aspects of the society has to be understood, and an individual living in a society must be more conscious of the duties which he has to every aspect of the society, and he must be regularly vigilant to perform that, execute them very consciously. Nobody might force you to do your duty, but you must be very vigilant. This becomes my duty. So duty is what really makes a human a human. Without that, if you don't perform your duties, a human who calls himself human is not really human. And let me call him as something like a Frankenstein, irrespective of what abilities he might possess. Something like a Frankenstein, or today's expression, a robot, or who doesn't have that human essence in him. Without human essence, one is not really not human. So, in situations where the Marxism makes their catch for their political ascending power, they would give more to more speeches, more talks, and more writings on rights. No, then what happens is uh, the society is in for a big problem in the long run. Now you see, the society. Let me pick up the example of some societies in my nation. The Northeast society is not a Marxist communist society, but in South Kerala society is a Marxist society. Now, Northeast society is becoming better because they were not financially autonomous or independent in the beginning. They were not making the extent of revenue, not all of them, but some of them, or maybe majority of them. They were not able to make revenue which was needed for their existence and normal living at one point in time. And of course, then the central government used to have funds to help them. And of course, the societies of Northeast, they have their own context and they have their own reasons, and they will take time to get into the mainstream and develop like others. And this had been an ongoing process, and they really demonstrate marked improvement. They're coming in. But the society in Kerala, which is as good as any other society in Bharat, but then there the virus of communism in its multiple forms, Marxism in its multiple forms, at this party, that party, etc. Now, they have been very successful in teaching people about their rights. And I don't think anybody had ever taught them about their duties. As a result, as on today, the state is not economically independent. They have to depend on loans, grants, etc. for their common normal functioning. This is an appalling situation. And why that land is good enough. They have skilled workers, they have everything there, but they are unable to run production units. They are unable to run production units. It's not only the case that they are unable to run production units, their production units are all getting closed because of the union activism. The union activism is very intense there. They immediately come and strike, and the striking, tools down strike kind of things they do, and eventually the production unit will have to get closed. And if you go find out, you can get the history. The number of such production houses got closed in last so many years, not 10, 20, right from independence. These things used to be happening there. Now, another thing is that the being very conscious about rights and not being taught in duties. You look at the employees, even in private sector. In private sector, of course, people will have to work, but even there, one doesn't really bother to do his duty, but they is very conscious about his rights to salary, leave, leisure, all kinds of things. But then he doesn't perform his job. As a result, you find this anarchic situation of many departments, different departments, they're not having any kind of synchronization. They don't synchronize themselves. They just function as independent, isolated islands, not having connectedness to one another, which results in some kind of intense chaos. Somebody makes a road, one department makes a road, another department comes and digs it the next morning, and then leave it as it is, maybe because it's another department which is supposed to close. There are no coordinations. Now, all because of this fundamental point which I raised right in the beginning. They are not conscious of their duties. Nobody teaches them their duties. They all at the same time very conscious of their rights. They don't think that this I should do, this is a part of my duty, without anybody telling that should be spontaneous. Without anyone telling you, one should realize that this is my duty. And as a collective action, it's our duty, it's a team's duty. But this aspect is missing, and as a result, the state is unable to create revenue. They don't understand. They're supposed to be people who are thinking. Only thing, I don't know in which direction they're thinking. They're supposed to be people, very lettered people. Nobody thinks in this direction. Why they're unable to exist autonomously? Why they don't have financial independence? Why don't they think in terms of creating revenue for their own existence? They should make surplus and send it to others. No, this disease is not there in the adjacent states. Some of them are doing very well economically. So, being conscious about duties more than the rights should be, let me say, a panacea to many problems what people face without realizing that they can solve it. If you go to borrow money from some agencies, that is not a solution. That's only a temporary, not even relief, escapism. You have to pay that back sometime with interest, of course. How will you create? How will you generate funds? Why do you expect people working abroad to send money and then from that you can make you can create revenues out of it? No. This is one problem of not being conscious about duties. As a member of a family, you have given rights within the house, but you should also have given duties in the family of which nobody might tell you, but you should do it. You look at the joint Hindu families, all these things gets balanced. All these things get balanced. A girl getting married duly to this family, if she is very, very conscious of her rights. Now, I am just married to this man. I have only something to do with this man. I don't have to bother about his family. So, this is my right to exist. So, I want my independence and etc. Then, of course, that is one situation. But if she belongs to the family, her rights, she may have to sacrifice some of her rights. But then if she is conscious about her duties, then on a long run, she'll have a comfortable living. Her child is sick, somebody else will take care of it. Somebody who is capable of doing it will do it better. She needs something, somebody will take care of it. You surrender some of your selfishness disguised as independence. You give in. Or if you're self-oriented, I want this, I want that. No, she wants her husband's car not to be used by anybody else in the family. These things, of course, doesn't work out in joint family. Somebody has a car, everyone will do it. Everyone will use it, and you can use everyone's car for that matter. So this kind of selfish independence, let me call it, would destroy the coexistence of a family. That's where in Bharatiya Sanskriti I said Kutumba, the family, becomes the first unit. And if the Kutumba is fine, then everything will automatically get to become fine. So when you teach, when you discuss, let's also discuss duties intensely apart from rights. In a communist country, one of the problems which some intellectuals were facing is that there is no competitiveness between different people, so the quality get deteriorated, and there's nobody, no one would work beyond a point. They will only work for matter of fact, because whether he works or not, he gets his whatever the state is supposed to give you. And this is a difficulty in any state-honored situation, and I don't think there is any society which has really gone into communism, including Lenin's Soviet Union. which he was trying, of course, but could not survive. They have only gone up to the dictatorship state of Marxism, which is a dictatorship of proletariats, which they continue. And China is not really ideally communist at all. They have only adopted the dictatorship aspect of communism. Other things just they left. So, of course, we were discussing about rights, duties. It's fine that you should be aware of your rights, and it's fine that at times when your rights are denied and negated, you should ask for it, and if the situation so demands, you should fight for it. All these things are there, but then you should also be consciously conscious about your duties, and you should also execute your duties to become a complete human being living in a sensible society, civilized society. Otherwise, what you will have in front of you is simple anarchism. We'll discuss again in some other time where conceptual confusions may be called clarities, where confused concepts trouble us, and we would desire to be clear about such confused concepts, such unknown phenomenon which is causing us difficulties, troubles. Let's get the concepts clear. Let's discuss about some other thing again in another video. Till then, take care. Thank you very much. Namaste. Jai Bharat. Jai Shri Ram.